The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership Podcast. It's another edition of The Big Issue, and I hope you had a very wonderful weekend. Well, it has been politics all the way, and as you think of issues of national interest to discuss on the big issue, once you see the chart, what comes up is always politics. We're just coming out from a fresh from the general elections, and the post-election issues are still hitting up the polity. As usual, I'm your regular host, Chochagban. With me here in the studio are also your regular in-house analyst, Silas Izebu.
Welcome.
And Chibuzo Okaibe. Well, the big issue of the day is the United Kingdom and its warning against ethnic profiling in Lagos. The United Kingdom expressed concern over ethnic profiling of non-indigenes in Lagos, which is said ought to be a cosmopolitan city by some prominent Nigerians, such as a former minister of aviation and a director in the media directorate of the APC Presidential Council, Chief Fani-Kayode. The British government expressed displeasure over controversial comments made by Fani-Kayode, over which he was invited by the Department of State Services. Fani-Kayode, who is also a director of the APC Presidential Council, had tweeted that the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, met with some army generals prior to the just concluded elections with a view to effecting a change of government by way of coup. The British Deputy High Commissioner in Nigeria, Ben Llewellyn Jones, in an interview with Nigeria Info FM, said some of the former ministers' tweets in reference to the opposition contain words and phrases deemed derogatory, divisive, and inciting. He asked if there were triggers for violence leading up from the campaign to the election. He disclosed that 10 persons are on a visa ban watch list over violence and rigging of the last election, saying he was puzzled as to why Fani-Kayode would make such statements. He said the APC should have distanced itself from the former aviation minister. Silas, these are issues that are burning issues that are heating up the polity, and the British government had to weigh in warning against ethnic profiling in Lagos. What would you have to say about the issue of ethnic profiling? And what is it about the ethnic profiling that the British government is actually raising the alarm?
Yes, thank you for that question, George. This election cycle has brought out some very solid part of our history that we thought had been very long ago. Not only that it's been very, that it's no longer playing such an active role in foreign politics. But sadly, such bad part of us was suppressed during the election of 2023, especially the presidential election and afterwards. Ahead of the election, I think for the first time since 1979, we had three candidates that were coming from three major ethnic groups. People going from the southeast, who campaigned to the Nigerian president, said they would want a Labour president, one appeal. Atiku Abubakar of the PDP, which is the National Party, and then Tinubu, who said it was his turn to be president because it was turn on Yoruba as the president. So, this first time happened such a scenario like what in 1979 when you had Awolowo from the National Group, then southwest, Zik from southeast, and then Shadai from the north. So this time around, it happened that Tinubu, who has had Lagos as his playground for local president for more than 50 years, and later 19 governor, and subsequently when I was changing all the governors as they like. It happened that Obi's presence, we know the history of Obi, how we moved from PDP to Labour Party and re-energized the party and used the platform to contest. So in Lagos, this obedient movement and Obi enthusiasm rose across the country, especially in Lagos. And it appears that more people in Lagos were willing to vote for him than the man who is seen to be the quote owner of Lagos politics. So, coming to your question, it seems that some of the foot soldiers of Tinubu, fearing that they were losing the battle, with Kogi for the control of the mines and hearts of Lagos people, now started targeting those who were referred to as Igbo people and non-indigenous people of Lagos, those who came to live in Lagos. They felt that most of the people who are from this class are not likely to vote for Tinubu. And then that's first saying, well, if you're not going to vote for a person, you're not going to vote. So, if you watch during the 1998 elections, in the run up to it, with all the polls showing that Tinubu was leading in regular and not places, they now felt threatened that if the elections were allowed to go through and steady, Obi might demystify Tinubu in Lagos, which is, every political record, you have to move into your own base. And the fact that Obi was, taking away the support of Lagos people from Tinubu, they felt threatened. So his foot soldiers, mostly the thugs, the Agboros, and the staffs in Lagos, who seem to be have him as their godfather in that place, started. In fact, ahead of the election, we had videos, videos when we were viral, where some agents that were known to links to the APC candidates, Tinubu, we are openly telling, you know, people, if trying to single out the Igbo people, and try to profile them as being against the interests of the state. You could even see some teachers in schools, you know, making such allusions to that the first party was the APC. And that thing carried on. So on election day, people reported that where they wanted to vote, talks came and drove them away. Here they felt that this was a dominant part where Igbo people reside and none other, other people are not Igbo people. They selected votes in those areas. Though, Labour still won, Peter still won, those places. But the margin of his victory, the unofficial media of his victory, now spurred them to even more, what I call it, more violent approach to profiling. So that in the subsequent election of the constitutional election of March 18, I'm correct? March 18. They made sure that the areas where they voted for them for last time, that they barred people from going to vote if you looked like an Igbo person or if you look like you're not going to vote for the APC. So a lot of people came down with injuries and hurts and they were prevented from voting, all those things. So that was the kind of ethnic profiling that the British felt was dangerous because coming from the experience of Rwanda, okay, where you had the Hutus and the Tutsis, you know, that ethnic hatred, and then going back to the Second World War, had the Germans and the Jews and co. They had the potential of generating some kind of ethnic rivalry and ethnic conflict that can lead to pogroms, to to massacres and all that. So I think that's what the British is trying to, you know, to warn that such profiling is dangerous and should not be allowed. Okay, so I think that, and it mostly it happened in Lagos. This report was not really prevalent in other parts of Nigeria. And that's where the critical term was like, they're trying to argue that those who are seen in Lagos is a non-man's land. And it was not so. It's the better part of the land, and the whole of Lagos should be accorded as well. But on the other hand, people are arguing that people should allow to exercise their franchise any part of Nigeria where they reside because of the constitution allows it. So I will drop for here.
Well, Chibuzo, the third side as very well. Of course, we agree that ethnic profiling is very dangerous anywhere in the world. But that was what led to the uprising, led to the crisis in Rwanda. The British envoy also touched on certain issues to the extent of even hitting one prominent figure in the country, Femi Fani-Kayode, a former aviation minister, and one of the spokesperson of the APC presidential campaign council. He called Fani-Kayode's utterance and landed him in the DSS net where he was invited for question. I say he ought not to have made such kind of treasonable comment. I was even wondering why APC refused to distance itself from Fani Kayode. The former minister today hit back the UK envoy, asking him to do his worst, that he fears no one. According to Fani Kayode, he said, permit me to add the following addendum to my earlier personal response to the little Englander. I ask, who is this strange little British diplomat who believes he can tell us what Lagos State should be like in terms of ethnic makeup and how it should be run? He has accused me of speech and incitement simply because I say Lagos is not is a no man's land and that the Yoruba ought to be respected in their territory. Well, let me say clearly and categorically that I have no apology for saying that, for saying this. And I stand by every word I say. We do not need any lesson from him. Foreign diplomats come to this country to enhance our relationship with theirs and not to give us lectures. This has really pitched the APC chieftain against them, the British High Commissioner, who put that personal. In all this, could we say Fani Kayode was right when he said the British government has no right to come to Nigeria to tell Nigeria what they ought to do or not to do? But we know very well that sometimes the diplomatic community sometimes have a role in elections and issues that pertain to Nigeria, though not as active players, but as observers who will have one or two advice. So what do you think about all this growing feud between Fani Kayode and the British High Commission? Some say it's like at the end of the day, the UK envoy is overreaching the power. Do you agree with that?
Thank you. It's always very interesting when issues like this crop up. And by the way, totally agree with the context created by Mr. Silas as to how we got to where we are. And for to add a bit more, I think it's unfortunate that after all of these years, that we've been trying to become a nation, it does appear as if those who ought to pass the torch for that attempt appear to be the ones, perhaps in an attempt to hold on to certain primordial privileges, have refused to allow the younger ones who, as it was clearly seen in this election circle, didn't get themselves trapped in that, and I'm talking specifically of Lagos now, didn't allow themselves get trapped in this ethnic profiling and all of that, because it was clear from the way things panned out that a lot of people just wanted something different in Lagos, regardless of tribe and ethnic tendencies. People just wanted something different in Lagos. And so, unfortunately, the older politicians, those who people felt okay, had at least got almost a direct experience, or if not, a, a closer experience as to where our divisive tendencies, how bad our divisive tendencies can take us to. We are still the same people who kept pushing certain narrative that really hit up politically lesson, resulted in a very display of violence and electoral, animosity. Um, as to whether the British can tell us what to do, well, to the degree that we don't go to Britain every time whenever we have any issue, they will always want to interfere, in what we do. And it's funny when it suits us, we seek their intervention,
And
and
whenever it
then when
doesn't
it
suit
doesn't suit us, we
us,
say, "Oh, leave us. We can take care of ourselves."
forgetting that those were our former landlords, people who colonized us for how many years?
If you don't want the British to interfere in your affairs, then behave properly. Behave properly. And I don't think the British has to tell somebody to stop talking the way he's talking. If the way he's talking is generating hate and hitting on the point. So to that extent, as much as I do not want foreign, nationals or foreign entities telling us how to behave. It is important that we behave as civilized people, as people who have respect for ourselves and value, you know, one another. If you do and behave like this, it will be difficult for any foreigner to tell you, oh. And moreover, I didn't say the British representative didn't say it in in isolation. He said it in a context. It was very clear that this is. He was not saying it as to, oh, this is. I'm saying it as a colonialist. He was saying it as a human being to another. Such expressions are not good. Such profiling are not, and it's everywhere. Fani has decided to, engage him the way. Let's see what the British government does. Of course, they said they're not going to listed some names. Right?
Mm.
They're going to do visa ban and all of that. Let's see how that pans out. Maybe when things like this begin to happen, it will force our leaders to stay back
To
and
sit up.
fix things. And maybe some good can come out of that. One would think some good can come out of that. I will not have, unfortunately, the scenario with former deputy senate president having to go to those places and now look at the mess this has created. So if Fani has said what he has said and he's saying, don't tell me anything, then she will be bold enough to say, I'm not going to come to your country or any other country for that matter for medical assistance. Or whenever things go haywire in my country, I'm not going to come to you to seek intervention. But truth of at the back of this all is that Fani speaks. If you hear him speak, you know that he has a lot of British education.
Accent. Yeah.
All of your schooling and all of your tutoring
Was in that country.
So it's a big irony. In that sense.
Well, Fani-Kayode's one argument is that the British government is actually, that country between Britain is actually uh, 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 surviving, or how would we put it, thriving and prospering on the blood of African slaves, including the blood of the Nigerians that were shipped to that country as slaves. But at the end of the day, just like you now say, that is even the point. If you had that at the back of your mind, why go seeking their education? Why using their own assets? And speak sheet, if you don't know the Fanika or maybe you are listening to a radio, you will think that it's really a British person speaking. But silence, let's really look at this. Does that British government have that right to interfere? Pandef, the Niger Delta highest political and socio-cultural group has agreed with Fanika, even though they agree that his comments were inciting his call for his alarm. The alarm raised on alleged coup plotting between the PDP candidate and the army was very wrong. I agree with Femi Fani-Kayode that the British government has no right to come to interfere in issues that border on Nigeria.
Okay, Judge, I will say that part of what the diplomat said, is I agree with you, especially when they talked about um, against exit profiling. That one, even at the level of British government, when a situation happening, uh, they can advise against it in order to avoid what happened in Rwanda. And you know that even now, I think the Belgians and the French have not been, it's been blamed for the silence what happened in those two countries, keeping quiet, and even allowing this to happen. So, in fact, I think this is the French and Belgians that even came to, I think one of them, and this French also, that even came to apologize later on. So, I know if you have such a thing break out, the kind of commotion it caused, the kind of refugee, the kind of crisis it generates in Nigeria and Africa. So of course, Britain will be one of the countries that will be worst because they are very massive. So we try to avoid the place where Nigeria is often into ethnic crisis. Like you don't know how far it's going to go to start. So now that they can speak, but to begin to talk about and what we did was it would be a kind of monetary crisis that is an international issue. But when it comes to talk about the issue of Lagos being a no man's land, you know, I don't think it's for the British to tell us whether Lagos is
It's
water or
cosmopolitan.
it's not that I don't think it's their truth. Okay. Within Nigeria we can solve that one out. Nigerians speaking at Lagos is a Nigerian state that anybody in Lagos is free to go to pay tax to live any part of Nigeria. In Nigeria, for instance, you can live in Lagos, Nigeria, as long as you are lawful and and peaceful. You can live in any part of Nigeria. Nobody should tell you to get out of that place. Just as people from Calabar and voted in Lagos, they also voted in Kano, they voted in Enugu. You don't understand? So nobody told anybody from Lagos living in Enugu not to vote. So the same thing for those in Lagos cannot tell those from Enugu not to vote in Lagos. Anybody in Nigeria who is anywhere is allowed to vote. So for those people to begin to, and if you look at to profile those who are not from there not to vote, that is totally illegal and even criminal. But let me end by saying that as a round off, I want to also mention that the British and the US mission also used against intimidation of people based on tribe and political intimidation in Lagos. Both the British and the UK, the government had a statement against those things, and for candidate to try to say Lagos was a Yoruba affair, that other people not like as great as other people should not have a political right to go to Lagos. That's what I think the British was trying to say. No, you cannot say that, but saying it to deny people their right as Nigerians. So uh, finally, I would say that the idea of trying to bring in a visa ban, to me, that one is an idea that can apply to the elite because it doesn't the elite that with
those kind of
and those days most of the time when they commit political crimes like that, electoral crimes, the law does not catch up with them. If they talk to the street that they send,
yes, sir.
that are normally at court, apart from a few, like Kano state lawmaker who was arrested, and the man in the River State who was also arrested with some dollars, you know, directly because they were directly involved. But most of the governors who have faced this election and other political bigwigs, they are likely to get away with the murder committed on election day. But the this ban will apply to them. Only those that you can't go to our country, But they can go to another country like not UK or US. The Dubai is there, Russia is there, China is there. They can go all those places who have not said anything about server. So I commend them for that, but I want them to do a lot more to put pressure on systems to ensure that we have free, fair,
credible election. Thank you very
They are
much,
now
Silas.
calling. They
Well,
are now calling on them to put pressure on our
all
system.
system.
That
Yes.
is the same
That is that, of
interference.
course, it
No,
amounts
no,
to that
no,
same
no,
interference
no.
we're talking
The
about
government
there.
of US
Mm.
has always promoted democracy all over the world. That is their first mission to the world. Democracy all over the world. And what we did in Nigeria is not democracy.
Well,
So
in
we
my
need
own,
a foreign person to put pressure on us.
One of them is this ban.
well,
When they deal with those who are running affairs in
I
Nigeria,
think
they're putting pressure on Nigeria.
Chibuzomia will agree with Silas because at the end of the day, it all amounts to just one thing. That we, after about 62 years or so of independence, we have still not grown above some of these
This kind of
politics and sentiments. Because naturally, that profiling was typically against the Igbos, and I think
And
the
others who look like
who
Igbos.
look like Igbos. And the angst is that they wonder how an Igbo man vying for presidency will go and defeat their son. In Lagos, the largest state in the southwest. And you see, the ethnic profile in itself is bad. So we're looking at the messenger people like Fani-Kayode. But when it comes to that, me, I will take a position that yes, the British government was actually right. And from what Silas has said, is that if they can interfere and help to teach Nigerians, both the followers and our leaders, how democracy operates, it will really help us. Because in what really happened, we've not heard any case of the southeast that says the Igbos are angry or they are treating the Yoruba people badly because the way they voted or it all amounts to a situation where you overheat the politics. At the end of the day, your candidate, the APC presidential candidate, what is the problem with you, Femi Fani? Well, what do you think in the final analysis?
For me, I don't. The expressions you said to teach our politicians that these guys should be, the US and UK should help teach our politicians the tenets of democracy. I don't think it's a question of our politicians not understanding the tenets. Let me take, for instance, the APC and the nucleus of the APC was built around a progressive kind of politics, which suggests that, okay, they will invite, because when they came up on the back of PDP's tendency to be draconian and all of that. So they came with the notion of being a more progressive party that is open and ready to deepen our democratic experience, considering what PDP was doing. What have we seen so far? So it is not a question of whether they know what to do. It's a question of doing what is right.
Right.
From what we have seen, my own perception of what has played out so far is a pure, deliberate attempt at power grab and revenge. That is what this guys have done. That is on the one hand. On the other hand, how far can the US and UK go with all of these barriers? This is not the first time we have seen this happen. And I think that is why we can dare them in that sense. How many times have we seen the US and the UK say things like this and they followed through with them? We saw what played out in 2019 and they said, oh, and they say it and say it and say it, and at the end of the day, it just goes. It happens again and they just say it and it goes. What does that tell you? It tells you that they also recognize that there's a limit to what they can do. That's the point I'm trying to make. That at the end of the day, it comes back to Nigeria. We just have to step up our game, not just as a politician, but as a people. As a people. I don't see, well, people say they weaponize hunger, they weaponize poverty, they weaponize ethnic and all of these things. Yes, it's true. It's true. I'm not trying to exonerate the political class. But I'm also not trying to exonerate. I'm not also not trying to assume that the followers who they use for these things are innocent or are naive. So they're also complicit. The followership is also complicit in all of this. So that's where that's where I am coming from. However, um, there are also channels through which these things can be pushed, and I has much more legal teeth than just relying on the UK and US
and
to
then
ban and all of
for
that.
saying that.
There's international courts. Those are the kind of places issues like this should be taken to. Rather than just relying on the Britain and UK to say all the nice things. They say these things because they are nice. And perhaps they will follow through when those people come to their countries. But I can bet you that they are not going to push it much more than how we are ready as a people
to accept,
to push.
because whatever they say is just merely advisory. Well, that is the much we can take for today's edition of the big issue. Ethnic profiling in whatever form is bad. Well, for the British government and other world powers, the idea of telling Nigeria what is right, not necessarily detecting for the country, that is also accepted. Well, at 62, they say Nigeria is still work in progress. Though somebody raised that and say at 62, it is human life. If somebody at 62 is already considered an old person. Thank you for keeping tab with us out there, and of course, I thank our in-house analysts for addressing the big issue. Join us tomorrow, same time, for another edition of this program. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.